Reimagining Success, episode 66.
You're listening to Reimagining Success, the podcast where we help you reimagine your future, designing a life and career beyond the 9 to 5 that allows you the freedom, flexibility and fulfillment that you've been dreaming of. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg. Now, let's get started on those dreams.
Hello, welcome back. As we continue on from last week when we were looking at how you can develop confidence in who you are and what you do, and we look at overcoming comparanoia. Now, comparanoia is something I've literally just heard a few weeks ago, but it's definitely something I'm aware of from previously. It's just a new term, I guess, that's appeared on the scene, as always. So comparanoia, that excessive comparing with other people. And this is really fear-based, right? It's rooted in a fear that there's that scarcity, zero sum. If this person does well, then I can't do well. If, this person gets published on Forbes and Business Insider and Huffington Post, whatever, it means I won't get published. If this coach is in Red Magazine and whatever it might be, then I can't be there. Or if this person is speaking on this stage, I'm not going to. Which is very odd, really, if you think about it, because the fact that someone else is speaking on a stage or getting published or writing a book or whatever it is, first of all, has no impact whatsoever on what I'm doing. But if it does have an impact, then if anything, it's a positive impact, right? Because it means that, look, someone who's like me can and has done this, and so I can too. So that's what we want to look at this week in terms of how we can overcome this idea of comparanoia, which I'm sure you can relate to. And to some extent, it's really the enemy of confidence. So last week we talked about developing confidence. And this kind of comparanoia, especially in today's digital age of social media, I dread to think what our children, teenagers and so on are having to go through and will have to go through over the coming years. And certainly I'm glad that I didn't have to go through that level of comparison online, knowing exactly, well, in fact, we don't know exactly what other people are doing because people are just, of course, projecting the best sort of sides of themselves, just the best version of themselves, shiny, perfect images. As I understand, at school, if you don't get enough likes on your Instagram post, then you delete it and take it down because that's embarrassing. I must admit, I think I used to do that on Facebook too back in the day. If I posted something personal that nobody liked or commented on, I'd sort of delete it embarrassingly. So, overcoming comparanoia is something really important for us as adults, but certainly for the children and teenagers as well, something we need to instill in them, that confidence and so on. So as last week, actually, I want to give you sort of 5 strategies here for how you can overcome comparanoia. And the first one, no surprise if you know me at all, is going to be, say it with me, define your own version of success. Why is that? Well, first of all, their success isn't necessarily your version of success. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee that their particular definition of success is not your definition. They have a particular vision they're working towards. It's not your vision. They have a certain way of doing business, a way they see that evolving, a way they want to live their life and so on. Not to mention they have a different set of skills and strengths and experiences and personality and so on, right? So it really doesn't matter if they've done X or Y. You need to focus on your game, focus on your own strengths, focus on what you're working towards. So last week I talked about step 1 in terms of developing confidence is getting really clear on who you are and what you do. So I can't overemphasize this because knowing your race, this is my lane, this is what I'm doing, is so liberating. When I used to go to a lot of conferences and things, which is great, for inspiration and so on, 5-6 years ago when I was first beginning this journey, having left my job, yes, I was sort of inspired, but I get so exhausted because every person I'd talk to, they'd say, oh, I'm doing this. And I think, oh, I want to do that. Or I'm doing that. Oh, I should be doing that. Oh, I'm networking a lot. I'm going to lots of conferences to get clients. Oops, I should do that too. Oh, I've been on this TV show. Oh, I should do that too. I've written a book, done a podcast, da. And maybe some of those things I have done over the years, but I've done them because I then, first of all, did them in my own time. And then secondly, I worked out that, yes, this actually is something I want to do. Not because this other person I happen to have met and had a coffee with is doing that. So really focusing on your own version of success, focusing on your own strengths, and importantly, focusing on what you do have and what you're working towards. So yes, maybe they have, X, Y, Z, but what is it you have? You have ABC instead, and maybe they'd be really envious of the ABC, right? So really focusing on your own strengths, getting clear on what you're working towards in your version of success. Now, secondly, don't fall for that shiny image that you're seeing on people's social media. And there's a few reasons for that, right? One client very kindly said to me recently that you're like an iceberg. What we see on the outside is just the very tip. And there's so much depth, there's so much thinking, so much content, so many resources, strategies, things that you're doing beneath the surface. And that's something, of course, that I need to work on getting more of that out there. So I'm looking at, pitching myself to media and so on. These are things that I want to do to really bring people into my world and to discover all those things that are underneath the iceberg. However, unfortunately, some people are the opposite. They've got a massive, flashy top, which is all talk, which sounds incredible, all these logos and pictures with Oprah, whatever it is. And actually, when you work with them, underneath, there's not much to show for it. So don't judge yourself versus what other people happen to be projecting. It could be that someone has this massive outward success and actually inside, unfortunately, the classic is, they're insecure. Maybe they're not actually making profit and sales. They're not happy with what they're doing and so on. And it could be vice versa, actually, that you're seeing, actually, that person doesn't seem to have a lot of followers and so on. But on the inside, they're doing exactly what they want to do. They have an amazing game plan. And they're, making the money they want to make, they're having time with their family, and they're super happy with what they're doing. So, first of all, who's to say that these other people are actually successful? And if they are, maybe not your definition of success. And maybe they are successful, by the way, but they've been in business for years. So don't compare your year 1 with someone else's year 10. A lot of the really big names, especially in American sort of coaching entrepreneurial world, they've been in the game. They started to blog when blogs were barely a thing. They were really ahead of the game with YouTube, Instagram, all these things. They do a lot of sort of hobnobbing with each other, networking, affiliate marketing, and so on. And they're incredible, but they have been in business for a very long time and they've worked really hard to get there as well. So, you can't see the hard work people have put in to get to this place. So don't fall again for that shiny image, because maybe they're not successful at all. Maybe they are successful, but it's not your definition of success. Or maybe they are incredible and that is where you want to get to, but they've been going at it for way longer than you have. So don't compare your day 1 to their day 3,000 and whatever. And of course, by the way, the easiest way to get away from this is to stop mindlessly scrolling on social media. So maybe try a bit of a digital detox. There is definitely a role for and a phase in which you're wanting to be inspired by other people, to look at what other people are doing. But then there's a time when you need to stop and take a step back and go, okay, I've seen what other people are doing. Now I'm going to sit down and choose the bits I want to do. And speaking of that, the next tip, third tip, is to pick up on the clues. So if you envy someone, and this goes for personal and business, right? What is it about them that you envy? What is it that they have that you would love to have? And by the way, what do you think they've done to get there, and what can you do? So I keep talking about media because that's what I'm focusing on now this year, but I might really envy someone who's prominent in the media and think, why am I not more visible in the media? I'm just as good, I'm maybe better than that person. So what on earth am I not being featured for, right? Why are they getting it when I could write a better article, when they are on, TV talking about something that I could have talked about better? I could say. But then I ask myself, what have I done? Have I pitched any articles? Have I made this a priority for myself? No, I really haven't. So it's completely my own fault and no one else's. And there's also a really clear path of action to take. So I can now focus, as I'm going to do, and I'll be back in a few months for the results of that. But I can now start looking at, okay, where do I want to pitch articles? How do I prioritize this now? How do I do this every day, every week this year and make it my own priority? So there's a difference between being jealous and being inspired. And as I heard someone say the other day, water your own grass, right? Don't be jealous of the grass being green on the other side. Water your own grass, stay in your own garden, focus on that, sow the seeds and wait for them to grow and blossom in the future. And in fact, speaking of the iceberg as well, I was trying to find this image the other day. I didn't know what exactly to search, but I've seen it in the past, where there are, I think, a couple of rabbits. And one rabbit has this tiny little sort of leaf above the ground, and you can see a massive carrot underneath in the soil, and the other one has this massive sort of green abundant thing above ground that looks incredibly impressive, and then the carrot underneath is this little teeny tiny thing. So again, what's above the surface isn't necessarily a true reflection of what's below the surface. So pick up on the clues. If you're envying someone, try to understand why, what is it about them, and let that be an inspiration rather than let that be sort of demotivation. And the next one is to embrace a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. And you may have heard of this, the abundance mindset rather than scarcity mindset, because as I said right at the beginning, someone else's success makes your success more likely, not less. And in fact, I discovered the other day that the original meaning of compete is from the Latin petere, however you pronounce that, a bit Italian, which is to aim at or to seek, and which of course is together. So compete used to mean that you're aiming at something together, you're working towards something together. So let's let that be the definition of competing and working towards our goals. We're working together, we're seeking out success together. Of course, our own definition of success, but let's strive for that new definition of success together, embrace that abundance mindset. I don't know if I've talked about the apple pie before. I feel like I did this a few weeks ago. This is an image that for some reason comes to mind with me. But imagine a big pie, right? The zero-sum idea that we learned in economics at university is that there's one pie and, either you have a third and I get 2/3, or we both have half, or you get all the pie and I get no pie. The reality is we can make a bigger pie. We can make 3 pies. We can make a rhubarb crumble as well as what other pies are there? Blueberry crumble, maybe my favourites. So you can make more pies, you can make the pie bigger, you can make different pies and so on, right? So the fact that, there is a pie doesn't mean that we can only eat from that pie. We can absolutely make the pie bigger. There's absolutely that abundance mindset where we can actually be, again, inspired by and understand that our success is made more likely, not less, by someone else's success. And then finally, in terms of comparing, why not compare yourself to the former you instead? So focus on how far you've come versus where you were. So don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to where you were a year ago when you were, miserable in your job. And now, look, you've started a side hustle, you've started a business. Or, 6 months ago, a year ago, you didn't have a clue who your client was and so on. And now you've got a really clear strategy in place. A few months ago, you weren't really creating content very consistently. Now you have a content calendar for the next 3 months. You're posting regularly on LinkedIn, you've got your blog, your email, whatever it might be. So if you haven't done this before, if you're just getting started, make a note down now, whether you write it in a diary or whatever it is, screenshots, make a note so you can really refer back to that a year from now and go, look at how far I've come, look how incredibly, how much progress I've made, and celebrate that. So compare yourself to yourself rather than to other people. So again, a few little insights to help you overcome comparanoia. Remember that it's fear-based, it's really rooted in that fear rather than that positive sort of inspiration, abundance. I think that's really the key message. But the first step has to be to define your own version of success, to focus on your own strengths and what you do have, what you're working towards. Second, don't fall for that shiny image that you're seeing on the surface, the big green leaves coming up out of the carrots, out of the ground, or the tip of the iceberg. Pick up on the clues, right? So if you envy someone, what is it about them you envy? What do they have that you would love to have? What do you think they've done and what can you actually do to get there if this really is something that's important for you? And then water your own grass. Sow the seeds, water your grass, nurture your garden. Embrace that mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And finally, shift your comparison to a former version of you rather than to the other people around you. So, as with last week with confidence, this is an ongoing struggle, I suppose. It's certainly an ongoing piece of development and growth that we need to focus on. It's not something you can just listen to a podcast for 15 minutes and then ta-da, that's done. But certainly I do think concretely, stopping that mindless scrolling on social media can really help. Being aware of this. So when you notice yourself going, why do they have this? Or I wish I had that. Stop for a moment, take a breath and think, okay, why am I thinking that? Do I care? Is this something that I would like to have? Yes or no? If not, then hooray, let it go. But if yes, then okay, what could I do to get closer to that as well? So hopefully that was useful to you. Really important topics, I think, that confidence, resilience, which we'll be talking about in the coming weeks as well, and addressing and overcoming that excessive comparison with other people. So vital, whether you're right at the very beginning of the process or you're, already in business since a long time. We're constantly raising the bar. We're constantly, setting our sights higher. And so the people you're comparing yourself with will only change over time. You're not going to stop comparing yourself. That's just going to sort of shift in terms of the circle of people you're comparing yourself with. So again, as we said last week as well, find that community of people who will lift you up and not be jealous of you as well, because you don't want people around you who are going to sort of be bringing you down because they have that scarcity mindset and that envy as well. So hopefully that was useful. Best of luck with overcoming your comparanoia, and I'll see you back here next week. Bye for now.
Have you set yourself ambitious goals for your business and you now recognise that you'll need mentoring from someone who's been there, done that, and can guide you to focus on the right priorities? I can help you clarify your vision and get the foundations in place for long-term success. Get clear on your messaging and build a strong brand proposition, and improve your work-life balance as you achieve your business goals without sacrificing your health and relationships to do so. Apply for a free consultation at onestepoutside.com/free consultation. I look forward to hearing about your goals.